A deal is not made in the second stimulus package, so what's coming up next? Hey, good morning, everybody. This is LALATE. Thank you for joining me for morning's LALATE. It's Saturday morning. We made it to the weekend. Congratulations. I smell the toast in the toaster. The coffee is percolating. I'm ready for a great Saturday morning. I hope you are. Thank you for tuning in. This is our morning's LALATE every morning at 8:30 a.m. And boy, we have a jam-packed morning broadcast right now about the second stimulus package. I will be going over what happened. What is the current? Why did the negotiations fall apart? What's going to happen next? And why are we where we are? First, the details. A second stimulus package deal was not brokered by the Republican and Democratic negotiators on Friday, even after 24 hours earlier, Steve Mnuchin, Treasury Secretary to Donald Trump, told the American public that he and Nancy Pelosi had an agreement to reach an agreement by Friday, no matter what. Well, that didn't come to fruition. By Friday morning, they indicated they had no deal, and that by Friday evening, they simply refused to negotiate any further. What happened? Well, viewers have asked overnight, am I still getting my check? No. Am I still getting my FPUC? No. Am I still getting my student debt grants? No. So let me go over the current situation so you understand where we are right now, because this is very, very important. And I'm going to additionally add that last night, the President of the United States said he was issuing an executive order. He did not. So despite his representations last night, there's still no difference than we were Friday afternoon. First, there is no stimulus check. There is no $1,200 stimulus check, $20,000 stimulus check, $2 million stimulus check. There is absolutely no second stimulus check because the parties did not reach an agreement. They had reached an agreement about the check, but the problem is that the check was part of a package of a lot of other stuff, and that other stuff in the package held ransom your check. So while they reached an agreement on a $1,200 check to be delivered to Americans in mid-August to late August, that check is not coming currently. Next, there was no agreement about FPUC, $600 a week, even though the parties allegedly agreed to it for a week or a few weeks. They couldn't reach any agreement on FPUC, $600 a week. So there will be no enhanced unemployment benefits being paid to you this week for retroactive weeks past that have been due, or the prospective week as well. Next, they reached an agreement about a rent eviction moratorium, and they reached an agreement about mortgage forbearance, but ultimately that again was held up by the rest of the stimulus package. They did not reach an agreement about rent grants. They had reached an agreement upon student debt repayment deferment, which means you would not have to pay the debt back while the pandemic is going on. But again, that was held ransom by the rest of the package that was not agreed upon. They had reached an agreement on the post office, how much money would go to USPS for its employees to increase safe conditions. And they had reached an agreement about PPP loan and another round of PPP money to come to small businesses that the Democrats had not initially wanted, but gave a concession and allowed for that money to occur. What held up the second stimulus package and ultimately caused its demise of negotiations this week were the following items. First, there was no deal upon FPUC long-term. The Democrats and Republicans could agree upon $600 short-term per week, but they could not agree upon the amount long-term. Next, they could not agree upon a rent grant program. Ultimately, the Democrats and Republicans agreed upon a rent eviction moratorium that you could not be thrown out of your home, but they couldn't agree upon any grant money. Third, they could agree upon student debt forgiveness, student debt deferment, which means you don't have to pay the principal interest back anytime soon, but they couldn't agree upon student debt forgiveness altogether, which the Democrats Democrats had proposed. They couldn't fourth, they could not agree upon liability insurance, which was a provision introduced by Mitch McConnell, and he said he would kill the rest of the stimulus package, including your check, if he didn't have that provision in there. Well, ultimately, it killed the package. They could not agree upon a federal building, a provision entered into the stimulus package by the Trump administration to give the FBI a $3 billion building that had nothing to do with COVID-19. Ultimately, that also killed the stimulus package. 6, they could not agree upon a meal deal in which rich people could deduct their rich, fancy lunches as a deduction. The Democrats would not agree to it, for obvious reasons. 7, they could not agree upon a travel deduction where people could deduct their expensive, fancy travel. And 8, they could not agree upon an airline bailout for airlines that wanted more money to bail them out, to manifest it or window dressed as a way to give money to their employees, a bait and switch they had done the first time around in the first stimulus package, asking for money for their employees, ultimately never giving it to their employees and just laying them off. So that is what happened this week. What does this mean going forward? Before I get to that, let me explain the executive order. On Friday evening, the president appeared before members of a very, very rich and fancy golf club, private golf club, and at his fancy dancy golf club membership ballroom. It was a ballroom. I'm not saying I'm not enhancing that. It was a ballroom. Said that he will be issuing an executive order. Now, generally, the president has issued executive orders on Friday, and generally, when he says he's going to issue an executive order, he does issue an executive order. He's very, very teed up and on timeline to do things quickly right after he says it. Well, it's Saturday morning. It's 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I still don't see an executive order. Now, what does that mean? Well, the executive order that he proposed were the following. First, deferring payroll taxes. He proposed an executive order that would defer payroll taxes. Basically doesn't do anything for you. It only, again, is a bailout to big fancy businesses, so they would not have to pay your payroll tax. It doesn't do anything for the employee. Second, he said that he would order the extension of enhanced unemployment benefits. He never uses the word FPUC, but that's what he's referring to. He doesn't give a number. He doesn't give a date. He says that he would extend it to December, but he doesn't give a date, an amount, which is sort of surprising. The president has no inherent authority to extend FPUC in any regards. The issuing of money from the Treasury or from the federal government cannot be done by executive order. It requires congressional act of Congress. So this is not a provision that will stand up more than a second. It will go right to court and it'll be litigated and no one will see the money. 3, student loans deferment. This is actually really great news. I'm not quite sure out of 4 things he could choose, this was the one he chose, but he chose that student loan debts would not have to be paid and are deferred until further notice. Really great news. He can do this and he says he will do it. 4th, eviction moratorium, which is really the best thing of everything that we're here on Friday, that he proposed an eviction moratorium to ensure that no one is thrown out of their homes. This moratorium would prevent evictions of tenants in the United States. There was no mention about mortgages. So there was no mention about foreclosures for property owners, no mention about foreclosures for whether you own your home or apartment building or commercial building. And the issue of eviction moratorium comes after less than 48 hours ago, his chief of staff was talking about eviction moratoriums for just some buildings and not all buildings. So that was Friday. It's Saturday morning and we don't have the executive order. So was this a lot of hot air? Or was this grandstanding in prime time at which it actually was announced? Or was this a lot of false promises in a week in which we were promised a lot and didn't get anything? Where are we going forward, LALATE? Am I getting my check? Does this mean I'll just get my check a week later? No. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to window dress it. I'm here for you and you're here for me, and we're going to get through this together because that's the spirit of the channel, helping one another and a spirit of hope, strength, and motivation. But in the same regards, we have to understand the true facts of the situation. We don't deal in alternate facts, and we deal in full reality here. First, there is no check coming out. There is no agreement upon the check. The check can't come to you because Congress has to approve the check. The check is part of a very large huge package, and they have not agreed upon it. Second, there is no eviction moratorium until the president signs the executive order. If he does, between playing rounds of golf this morning, which he is in a fancy-dancy private golf setting in New Jersey, I think it is, then I will certainly update you with that incredibly great news. But certainly, as we sit here on Saturday morning, we don't have that eviction moratorium executive order issued. Third, you're not getting your enhanced unemployment benefits. You're not getting it by active executive order because that's never going to happen. It's not going to be allowed. Two, there is no agreement upon it. Three, there's no agreement upon the retroactive benefits. So a lot of problems there. Next, if you had questions about food stamps, because I'm getting a lot of questions about it. I love the questions. I'm trying to read through all of them, and boy, there's a lot of questions, so keep them coming. Food stamps, no deal about it. Absolutely no deal. So why did this happen, LALATE? Why did this happen? It's not inherently clear. Of all the things I can report to you, I can report to you what happened, what's going to happen. I really still don't understand why this is happening. The Republicans don't want to give money, and I don't know why they don't want to give money. It's not their money, as a lot of viewers say. It's not their money. Moreover, giving money is not a bad signal or a bad message or something that is against their party beliefs. Giving money is not anti-Republican, so I don't know why this is going where it's going. I really don't know why we are at this juncture. I do know that the president has made very clear in his messages, and some Republicans, like Mitch McConnell, have made very clear in their messages that they want to say that the American economy is back to great terms. The American economy is at full recovery. Everyone is back at work. Everyone has a lot of jobs. Everyone's making a lot of money. And basically, hey, re-elect me because the American economy is solved and I've given you this great American economy. That is clearly the political position of the president and Mitch McConnell and some other Republicans. It's not true. Last night, the president said that he yesterday saw the greatest rebound of the American economy and growth of the American economy in modern day and never has seen this under any president's watch. Again, this is untrue statements, and it's a consistent behavior of this president to say the economy is back to normal when it's not back to normal. Unemployment numbers are at 1 million now for the 20th consecutive week, the worst number since the recession. 40% of Americans who make less than $40,000 a year are out of work and don't have a job to go back to. 40 million cases across this country of evictions are pending. 50% of blacks and Latinos are facing eviction because they can't make rent. No, excuse me, it's 2/3 of blacks and Latinos who are renters are facing evictions. There's a disparity among the harm that is being perpetrated across this country as to demographics. And when you see this president appear before a bunch of white people in a fancy golf tournament, a fancy golf private club on a Friday afternoon, and telling America that their economy is back to normal and everyone has jobs, is very troubling. It's very, very troubling because people don't have jobs. So was the stimulus package not reached because the Republicans don't want to believe you're hurting? I don't know. Was it reached because the Democrats, on the other hand, asked for stuff that sort of is too overbroad and should not have been there? Yes, I really do think that the Democratic proposal included stuff that should not have been in there, that was more long-term rather than short-term. When you're talking about the stimulus package, the second stimulus package, there was some stuff that was absolutely urgent this minute that had to go out. It was the check had to go out, or checks. I mean, you're all owed multiple checks. The fact that I'm still saying the word check singular, you were owed multiple checks. You were owed multiple checks in March. You didn't get those multiple checks in March. And now we're still talking about single check, and they didn't even send a single check. The fact that they put those checks that you were owed in March into a package regarding stuff that is really about stuff to happen in next year or middle next year didn't show a real thoughtful process by the Democrats. They should have only put the checks by themselves. They should have And they should have never had FPUC. This is both for Republicans and Democrats, should never had FPUC expire while they're on vacation. But they should have understood that certain things like rent eviction, unemployment, checks, food stamps are things that are urgent this minute, that need to be passed this minute. And that things like grant money for rent, which everyone really needs, but that is very broad. That can be done, in a couple of weeks from now or months. If you have an eviction moratorium, we don't need to worry about who's paying the rent in January 2021. We don't have to do that now. And then there's this. The biggest thing that both the Republicans and Democrats say that caused the negotiations to fall apart was not money for you, but for money for someone else. Who is it, LALATE? It's money for the states. They proposed, the Democrats, billions of dollars of money for the states. And this is money that we really don't know what is going to be used for. You've heard me talk about tenant money and staffing and budgeting, but we really don't know what it was. The Democrats made it very clear. The Republicans made it very clear. The president made it very, very clear. And the Democrats made it very clear on Friday that this is what caused the negotiations to fall apart. Why is your money that you need now being held ransom by a sweetheart deal for the states that can be done in a few weeks from now? That's ultimately where we are. So going forward, what's going to happen, LALATE? Where am I going to get my money, LALATE? This is just a lot of stuff. Going forward, we really don't know. We really don't know. We don't know what's going to happen on Monday morning. This is where people are. Okay, here's the Dora the Explorer part of the video. Where are people? The president's in the golf is on his private golf club with members. That's where he is. Joe Biden's campaigning. The Senate has been told they can go home and enjoy a nice Mai Tai. Well, they haven't been told that, but they've been told they can go home. And so apparently they're back routing to their vacation villas in Kentucky, and they're leaving town. The House members, including Nancy Pelosi, says they're not going to sit down and negotiate any further, so they're going home. Steve Mnuchin, Larry Kudlow, Pete Navarro, all those wonderful people that love to talk will probably be on Sunday morning news. They will be talking tomorrow morning, and everyone's going to be writing down their quotes, and then we'll be sitting back and saying, okay, well, you said that before. I'm not believing you anymore. Which at this point, I see the comments. So everyone is leaving town after working 4 nothing days this week. Well, actually, they were in session since last Monday to yesterday. And they negotiated a total of 2 hours per day. They really didn't put in the effort. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen next. I'm not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. Finally, a personal message. The personal message is that I'm the reporter, and sometimes when the reporter delivers the reporter's news is not something you enjoy to hear. And I understood that, and I understand it still going forward. I understood going into Friday's recordings when I was to tell you there was no deal, a lot of people are going to be upset. The reactions were, LALATE, please give me good news, when there's no good news. Or please, LALATE, when you say that an eviction moratorium executive order is going to be announced, and that's really, really great news, don't say it's great news because I didn't get my check. Ultimately, we're in this mess together, and if someone is being thrown out of their home because they can't make rent and they're facing an eviction moratorium, and we have an executive order that stops that for that viewer is not great news. It's incredibly great news. So I understand you're not getting the check, and I understand you have your home and you're fine, but please be considerate of the other viewer whose concern is not able to have a home tomorrow morning. I've gotten messages overnight that are just it's hard to say them on camera because I don't want to break down. I have people sending messages. I have no money for my kids for food. I don't know what I'm going to do. I understand that. On the other hand, I was up to date on all comments that are held for review as of almost 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time last night. Because the videos were so popular, within just a few hours, there was 1,000 comments held for review. And the reason why was 90% of them were laden with profanities. Not profanities against me, but profanities against Congress. People were furious. F them and S them, and people were just irate. I ask for the deepness of my heart that you try to tone down the profanities. It's ultimately what may happen is I may just have to delete everything, because you may have a really great comment that I want to post, but if it's laden with profanities, I can't post it. Going forward, the spirit of this channel is to help, to educate, to inform, and keep you motivated and inspired. I'm not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. It's a tough morning to wake up to, and I understand that. But together we get together and we get through this together. This is not a done deal. This is not a dead deal. There's more to come. We don't know when, how, and where path this will turn and twist, but we're not over. Join me later today on Afternoons LALATE starting at 3:30 Pacific Standard Time, and I'll start with the check, then going to hazard pay, rent FPUC, and rent assistance, and then join me on Evenings LALATE every day at 6:45 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and then continuing with EIDL at 7:15 Pacific Standard Time. Drop your comments. I love waking up to your morning comments. Stay motivated, stay inspired, and stay with LA for more.